Today's lesson is success of Arrhenius Acid-Base Concept. In this lesson, we are going to learn Arrhenius acids and bases and then success of Arrhenius Acid-Base Concept. So, let's begin. The first point is Arrhenius acids and bases. Now let's see which compounds are Arrhenius acids and which are Arrhenius bases and why. First of all, Arrhenius acids are hydrogen chloride, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, etc. And Arrhenius bases are sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, ammonium hydroxide, etc. Now let's see why these compounds are Arrhenius acids. Here we see that all the compounds have common element, that is hydrogen. So definition is the hydrogen containing compounds that can produce proton in water are called Arrhenius acids. And Arrhenius bases are, we see that all the compounds have hydroxide ion. So the compounds that can produce hydroxide ion in water are called Arrhenius bases. So simply, Arrhenius acids are those compounds that can produce hydrogen ion or proton in water are called Arrhenius acids, and the hydroxide compounds that can produce hydroxide ion in water are called Arrhenius bases. So more simply, Arrhenius acid is related to proton and Arrhenius bases is related to hydroxide ion. Now let's see the next point. Now the point is successes of Arrhenius acid-base concept. First of all, let's see nature of solution. That means a solution whether acidic or basic, this can be determined with the help of Arrhenius acid-base concept. Arrhenius acids can produce proton in water when this acid is added to water. When acid added to water, then it can produce proton. This proton can change the color of the litmus paper. That means this proton can change the litmus paper from blue to red. That means the acid, Arrhenius acid, is determined with the help of litmus paper. Similarly, when base is added to water, any base, this is water, then this base can produce hydroxide ion. This hydroxide ion can change the color of the litmus paper. That means base can change the color of the litmus paper from red to blue. So Arrhenius acid can change the color of the litmus paper, and through this process we can determine whether solution is acidic or basic. It can change the litmus paper from blue to red, so this is acidic solution, and this solution can change the litmus paper from red to blue, so this is basic in nature or basic solution. So Arrhenius concept can determine whether a solution is acidic or basic. Let's see the next point. Now the point is neutralization reaction. First of all, let's see what is neutralization reaction. The reaction between acid and base. Suppose nitric acid and base is sodium hydroxide. This reaction is done in water. Then salt is formed, that is sodium chloride, and water is formed. So the reaction between acid and base is called neutralization reaction. And acid produces proton and base produces hydroxide ion. And here the anion is nitrate ion. Here not sodium chloride, this is sodium nitrate. And here the cation is sodium plus. So sodium plus and nitrate minus, this salt is formed. This salt is again ionized, that is sodium plus and nitrate minus. So these ions, nitrate ion and sodium ion, before the chemical reaction these remain as ions, and after the chemical reaction these remain as ions. So no change before and after the chemical reaction. That is why these ions are called spectator ions. The reaction happens here is hydrogen ion and hydroxide ion, that means water is formed. This reaction happens in neutralization reaction. This proton is formed from acid, that means from Arrhenius acid, and hydroxide ion is formed from Arrhenius base, and this reaction happens and water is formed. So in neutralization reaction only this reaction happens between Arrhenius acid and Arrhenius base. It's a kind of addition reaction, that means addition of proton and hydroxide ion happens here. This reaction produces 57.34 kilojoule heat. That means this kilojoule heat is produced with the production of 1 mole of water, and Arrhenius suggested that the heat of neutralization is same for the strong acid and strong base. Whatever salt is produced, this is not a matter. The matter is it can produce same amount of heat, that is heat of neutralization, which is explained by the Arrhenius Acid-Base Concept. Let's see the next point. Now the point is strength of acids, which can be explained by the Arrhenius Acid-Base Concept very clearly. First of all, let's consider an acid, symbolic acid, that means Ha, symbol of an Arrhenius acid. When this acid is dissolved in water, then proton is formed and this anion is formed. Now the acid dissociation constant Ka is equal to concentration of hydrogen ion, concentration of anion divided by concentration of unionized acid molecules. So the more the value of Ka, that means acid dissociation constant, the acid will be more stronger, and when the acid will be more stronger, then the concentration of proton will be higher. When concentration of proton will be higher, then Ka, acid dissociation constant, will be higher. So for strong acids the Ka will be higher. The strong acids are suppose nitric acid, sulfuric acid, etc. So this is about the strong acid. And for weak acid, suppose acetic acid, for acetic acid Ka value will be lower, because acetic acid cannot produce huge amounts of proton because it's a kind of weak acid. So according to Arrhenius concept, we can determine the strength of acids, whether this is a strong acid or weak acid, by the value of acid dissociation constant Ka. Let's see the next point. Now the point is strength of bases. Let's consider a symbolic base BOH. When this base is dissolved in water, then it ionizes to this ion, this cation and hydroxide ion. From this reaction we can write base dissociation constant Kb is equal to concentration of hydroxide ion into concentration of this cation divided by concentration of unionized base. When the value of Kb is higher, then the base will be stronger, because the more the stronger base, the more the concentration of hydroxide ion. The more the concentration of hydroxide ion, the value of base dissociation constant will be higher. So from the value of Kb, we can determine whether the base is stronger or weaker. The stronger bases are sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide. For these bases, the value of Kb will be higher. But for weak base like ammonium hydroxide, the value of Kb will be lower. So from the value of Kb, we can determine whether the base is stronger or weaker according to the Arrhenius concept. No more today. Thank you very much. Take care.